What's up YouTube, it's Ryan from AnnihilatorMTG here, and I'm back again with some more Modern. This week we're going to be going back to Grixis. In my previous video, we faced off against a player who had a Nicol Bolas the Dragon God in their deck, and it honestly seemed like a ton of fun. The first thing that we need to consider when playing this version of Bolas is that the card is incredibly mana taxing. With no generic mana and a grand total of 3 black, 1 blue, and a red, this makes me extremely apprehensive about running cards like Archmage's Charm or Cryptic Command. We're going to have to dig pretty deep to solve this problem, so what I came up with was a riff on Corey Burkhart's old Blue Jund concept about Grixis control, which is more or less just a Grixis midrange deck. Since the Dragon God is so heavy into black mana, this is a perfect opportunity to leverage cards like Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, and Liliana the Veil. It's an added bonus that Nicol Bolas synergizes with Planeswalkers so well, so this makes Lily extremely appealing. Let's not forget about the blue cards though. We're running Serum Visions, Drown in the Loch, Snapcaster Mage, and Jace the Mind Sculptor. Jace is a key piece in this build, as he's an absolute powerhouse on his own, but if we manage to land a Bolas alongside him, we should be unstoppable barring an Elder spell. I'm extremely excited to play this build, so let's hop into the first match and see how it performs. Okay, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friends. And this hand is a little bit too land heavy, but because we have a cantrip, I feel like we can sort of get out of it. We'll give it a shot. They play a forest into a grazer, sure. They put a windswept heath into play, and then they pass. We draw a tar pit. That's not really what we're looking for. Let's start off with a Bloodstained Mire, find ourselves a Blood Crypt, then we'll Inquisition them. We see an Explore, a Summoner's Pact, a Forest, and a Growth Chamber. Let's take the Pact, and we'll ship it back. They draw for turn. They crack their Windswept Heath, finding a forest. Then they cast an Explore, and they play a Valakut, sure. We also see a Breeding Pool as well. They pass, we draw. We see a Liliana. Let's play and crack a Polluted Delta, finding ourselves a Watery Grave, and then we'll play a Visions. And we're seeing all the lands here. Let's put the Snap on the top and the Mountain on the bottom, and we'll ship it back. They draw for turn. They play a Simic Growth Chamber, returning a forest. We draw the Snap. Let's play an island. Then we're going to cast the Lily. Let's uptick. Gonna ditch the Bloodstained Mire. They dump a forest, and we'll hard pass. They draw for turn. They play a forest, and it looks like they're passing. Nice. Let's play the Creeping Tar Pit. Then we're going to uptick the Lily, dump the Delta. They lose a Ghost Quarter, and we'll ship it back. They draw for turn. They cast a Summoner's Pact, finding themselves a Prime Time. They cast their Titan. They've got a trigger. They find themselves a Simic Growth Chamber and a Teleria West. They return the Teleria West. Let's bolt their Grazer. We untap, draw a Kroxa. Let's Edict them. Then we're going to play a Blood Crypt untapped, and we're taking a bit of a gamble here. We're going to flash out the Snap. We're going to choose the Inquisition. We cast it. They've got 2 lands, so that's not great. Then we're just going to play the Kroxa, stack the triggers. They lose 3 life. They ditch the castle, and then we'll pass. They have to pay 4 mana. They do just that. Then they draw for turn. They play a Dryad, and then they put their Teleria West into play. They hit the Lily, and they pass. We draw a Sunken Ruins. Let's filter some mana. Then we're going to escape our Kroxa, stack the triggers. They go down to 13, and then we'll hard pass. They draw for turn. They've got several ways to win from here, unfortunately. Let's see if they manage to pull it off. They play a basic forest and hit the Valakut trigger at us, and they pass. We draw an island. Let's animate the Tar Pit. Then we'll swing in with a Kroxa and the Tar Pit. They take 3 damage from the Kroxa trigger. Then they go down to 1 from the attacks, and we ship it back. They draw for turn. Let's see if they've got it. And they do not. Excellent. Okay, so generally speaking, when playing against Amulet, I just want to bring in the Aether Gusts here. I think we can cut maybe 2 Fatal Pushes, and then like 1 more thing. Maybe even the 3rd Fatal Push. In fact, I kind of like that. Yeah, this should be relatively straightforward. And we've got quite the hand. We'll keep. Looks like they went down to 6. They play a basic forest into an Amulet. They pass. We draw a Lily. Very nice. Let's crack the Bloodstained Mire. Gonna find ourselves a basic swamp and Thoughtseize them. We see an Explore, a Dryad, and a Prime Time. Well, we'll take the Titan, and we'll ship it back. they draw for turn, they play their Selesnya Sanctuary, untap and then float some mana, they return it to hand, and they play a Dryad. Nice. They replay the Sanctuary, float 2 mana again, then they cast the Explore. They play a basic forest, and they pass. We draw a Lightning Bolt, let's play our Steam Vents untapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn, they play a Slayer's Stronghold, and then they attack. They swing in for 2, and then they're going to pump up the Dryad. They take us down to 11. They play a Sunhome. We draw a Drown in the Loch. We're going to cast the Lily. We Edict them. They sack the Dryad, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play an Explore. I think the only real way they can get out of this from here is if they draw both a Titan and a Cavern. At that point, since they have an Amulet, they might be able to get out of this, but other than that, it's going to be tough. They play the Sanctuary. They get to untap. They return their Sunhome, and we see a Teleria West. Okay. We draw another Drown. Let's uptick the Lily. We ditch a Drown, and then we'll just pass. They draw for turn. They play a Tireless Tracker. Sure. Let's bolt it. So now we can drown Titans, which is incredible. And since we have absolutely no reason to uptick the Lily, I think we're just going to pass. They draw for turn, and they play a Titan. Let's cast the Drown. All right, that's 1 Titan down. We draw a Field of Ruin. We're going to play that, and then we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play an Azusa, no problem. Let's hit their Teleria West with a field. We're going to grab a swamp, and we draw another Lily. So I think we're just going to Edict their Azusa, and then we're going to take a bit of a gamble here. So we're just going to play the Bolas, and then we uptick. We find ourselves a K command, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They also exiled their Amulet. They draw a Valakut. All right, I think we're good. We draw an Aethergust. Let's uptick the Bolas again. They exile a forest. And I guess we're just going to keep doing this until they concede. Really no reason to flinch. They play an Explore. Then they play a Grazer. Let's drown it. They pass. We find a Serum Visions. Let's uptick the Bolas again. We draw a Polluted Delta. And they scoop it up. GG's. Alrighty, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand looks pretty darn spectacular. The only real downside is that we're on the draw, not the play. Looks like our opponent kept 7 as well. They play a Blooming Marsh into an Inquisition, and it looks like they're afraid of the hand attack. We draw a Lightning Bolt. We're going to start off with our Bloodstained Mire, crack it, and I think we're just going to find a Blood Crypt. Then we Inquisition them. We see a Thoughtseize, a Night's Whisper, and a Fatal Push. Let's take the Whisper, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Verdant Catacombs. Then they cast a Thoughtseize. They take our Drown, and then they pass. We draw a Bloodstained Mire. Let's play and crack it. We're going to find ourselves a Steam Vents. Then we're going to cast a Visions. We see a Field of Ruin, and then 2 more Visions. Let's put 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, and then we'll pass. They crack their Verdant Catacombs. Find an Overgrown Tomb. They put that in tapped. Then they untap and draw. They play a basic Swamp. We see another Thoughtseize, so let's respond with a Lightning Bolt and target them. We take them down to 14. Then they go down to 12. They can't take any of the lands, and they pass. We draw the Serum Visions. Let's play an island and then cast it. We see a ton of lands here. Let's put the Fatal Push on top and the Fetch on the bottom, and then we're just going to hard pass. They play a field. Then they put the Lurrus into hand. We draw the Push. Let's play the Delta, and then we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Bauble. They crack it, targeting themselves. Then they play a field. They cast the Lurrus. Then they're going to bring back the Mishra's Bauble. Let's fetch a Watery Grave tapped. Then we push the Lurrus. They get their Bauble. They crack it, targeting us. They've got 2 triggers. We draw Kroxa. Let's play the field and then crack it, targeting their tapped field. We're going to find ourselves a swamp. Then we cast the Kroxa. In response, they're going to crack their field. Let's get a mountain. They find a swamp. The Kroxa resolves. Let's stack the triggers. They dump a treetop village. That takes them down to 9, and then we'll pass. They draw for turn. Then they play a Blooming Marsh. We see a Tarmogoyf. Then we draw a Watery Grave. Let's escape the Kroxa, exiling a bunch of lands. We stack the triggers. They Fatal Push in response, so then they lose 3. Then they draw for turn. They swing in for 5. That'll take us down to 8. Then they cast a second Goyf. Let's play a Watery Grave tapped. We'll escape the Kroxa, leaving a Drown in the Loch and a Lightning Bolt. We stack the triggers, and they lose 3 life. We pass. They draw for turn. They play a Spell Bomb. They crack it immediately. We lose our graveyard, then they draw a card, and they just scoop it up. Nice. So it's not every day that we get to play against Golgari Midrange. I think what we're going to do here is cut probably both Thoughtseizes and an Inquisition, and then just bring in the Aether Gusts. So I really don't feel like mulliganing against midrange, but especially considering we have this Lightning Bolt, if they have a Hex Drinker, this card is going to be absolutely fabulous. Same thing with a Bob. Our opponent leads off with a Swamp into an Inquisition. Sure, let's see what they take. They do decide to snag the Lightning Bolt. We draw, find a Snapcaster. Let's play a Steam Vents tapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play their second Swamp. And we see a Bob. We draw a Tar Pit. Let's play the Watery Grave. Then we're going to cast the Kroxa. We'll stack the triggers. They dump a Verdant Catacombs. Then we're going to pass. They've got a Bob trigger. We see an Abrupt Decay. They play a tapped Treetop Village, and then a Thoughtseize. I assume they're just going to take the snap since the Bob is basically dead anyways. And they do. They swing in for 2 with a Bob. They take us down to 16. Then they play a Spell Bomb. And we draw a Fatal Push. Nice. Let's take the opportunity to push the Bob, and then we'll pass. They know that we have the Drown in the Loch. They put the Lurrus in hand, no problem. Then they crack the Spell Bomb. Yeah, we can work with that. They pass, we draw, Serum Visions. Let's play the Tar Pit. Then we're going to cast the Visions. We see a Lightning Bolt with a Field and another Bolt. Let's put the Bolt on top and the Field on the bottom. Then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. They play a tapped Treetop Village. They animate the Village. Let's bolt their land. We draw another bolt. Let's play the mountain. And then we're just going to pass. They draw for turn. They play a bauble. Crack it, targeting us. They animate the village once again. Let's bolt it. All right, 2 villages down. They pass. Then they draw off the bauble. We find a K command. That's quite good. Guess we're just going to hard pass. Their hand is Lurrus, Abrupt Decay, and 4 unknowns. They play a Thoughtseize. Let's drown it. Then they cast an Ooze. Let's play the K command. We're going to make them discard, then kill the Ooze. They dump a push, and the Ooze dies. We draw a Serum Visions. Let's cast it. We draw a Bloodstained Mire, then we find a Snap and a Lily. Let's put both of those on top. Then we're going to animate the Tar Pit. We'll swing in. We take them down to 8, and then we'll pass. They play their Lurrus. Then they replay a bauble. They crack it, targeting us. They get to draw off the bauble. Let's play the Bloodstained Mire. We cast the Lily. Then we edict them. The Lurrus dies, and then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. I assume they're just going to Abrupt Decay the Liliana. They play a basic Swamp. We see a Hex Drinker. Then they level it up. We draw the Snap. Let's animate the Tar Pit. We're going to swing in for 3. We take them down to 5. And then I think we're just going to pass. They play a Field of Ruin, and then they're leveling up their Hex Drinker. Then they're going to crack their Field of Ruin. We're going to get an island. They've got a forest. They attack us with a Hex Drinker. Then we're going to crack the Bloodstained Mire. We find a Watery Grave. Then we're going to flash out the Snap, target a Lightning Bolt, and they scoop it up. GG's. Okay, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friends, and this hand looks awesome. We'll keep. Looks like our opponent kept 7 as well. They start off with a snow-covered forest into a noble. We draw an Inquisition. Let's play our Polluted Delta, then we're going to crack it immediately. Find ourselves a Watery Grave. Then we're going to push the Noble. The Noble dies, then we pass. They draw for turn. They play a Flooded Strand, and then they pass. We draw a K command. Let's play a Steam Vents. We're going to lead things off with an Inquisition. They crack the Flooded Strand, finding themselves a snow-covered island, and then they play an Ice Fang. Then they draw. We see a Spell Queller and a Stone Forge. Think we're just going to take the Queller. Then we're going to cast the Serum Visions. We find a Kroxa and a Lightning Bolt. Let's go top, then we'll pass. They draw for turn. Our opponent swings in for 1, taking us down to 14. Then they play a Snow-Covered Plains into a Stone Forge. Let's see what they find. They find a Batterskull, and then they pass. We draw a Lightning Bolt. Let's play a basic Swamp, and then I think we're just going to bolt the Stone Forge, and then we'll pass. They draw for turn. They move in for combat, swing in for 1. That takes us down to 13. They play a Windswept Heath, and they pass. We draw the Kroxa. We're going to jam the field and then play a Lily. Let's uptick. We're going to get rid of the Kroxa. They dump a Breeding Pool, and then we're going to pass. They crack their Windswept Heath, finding a Snow Duel. Then they draw for turn. They play another Snow-Covered Island. I think they're very likely going to jam the Batterskull. They move in for combat and attack the Lily. Then they cast the Batterskull. We untap, draw Bloodstained Mire. Let's uptick the Lily, ditch the land, as do they. We're going to play the K command, destroying the Batterskull and killing the Ice Fang. They've got 1 card left. Let's pass. Then they draw for turn. Let's see what they got. Looks like they're just passing. We draw a second Lily. Lily. Let's uptick. We ditch the spare Liliana. They discard a Force of Negation. Then we pass. They draw for turn. Looks like they're passing. Let's take the opportunity to field their Snow Duel. Then we grab a mountain. They get a basic as well. And they see the writing on the walls because of the Kroxa. They scoop it up. So this is one of those weird matchups where our main board is so good against what they're doing that I have no idea how we want to sideboard. I think what we're going to try is bringing in the disputes and trimming on a Bolas and a Lily. Yeah, that should be fine. With 2 cantrips, I think this hand is probably good enough. Looks like they also kept 7. They start off with a Flooded Strand, and they pass. We draw a Snow-Covered Island. Let's play a Watery Grave. Then we're going to jam a Visions. We find a Lightning Bolt, then we see a Snap and a Jace. Let's go top, and then we're going to pass. Well, if they play a Stoneforge, we're going to be in a good position. They crack their Flooded Strand, finding themselves a Snow Duel. Then they untap and draw. They play a Prismatic Vista. They crack it. They grab a Snow-Covered Forest, and then they pass. We draw the Snap. Let's play the Blood Crypt untapped. Then we're going to cast a Visions. We draw the Jace, and we find a Fatal Push and a Field. Let's put the field on the bottom and the push on top. Then we'll pass. They flash out an Ice Fang. Then our opponent untaps and draws. They play a Misty Rainforest. They swing in for 1, taking us down to 15. They pass. We draw the Fatal Push. Let's play an island, and we're going to ship it right back. Let's see what they got. They crack their Misty, finding a Breeding Pool. Then they untap and draw. They play a Snow-Covered Island, swing in for 1. We're going to cast the push. They respond with a Veil of Summer, sure. The Ice Fang lives, and they draw. They take us down to 14. Then they cast a Stoneforge Mystic. Let's see what they find. They choose a Batterskull. Let's bolt their Stoneforge. It dies. Then they pass. We find a Mystical Dispute. Let's play a Tar Pit. Then we're going to cast the Kroxa. We stack the triggers. They discard a Mana Leak, and then we'll pass. They untap and draw. Their hand is 1 Batterskull and 4 unknowns as they play an untapped Temple Garden. They play everyone's favorite Squirrel. Then they swing in for 1. They deal 1 damage. Then they draw a card. We untap and draw. Find a Blood Crypt. We're going to put that in untapped. Then we're going to cast the Jace. They play a Force of Negation, pitching a Mana Leak. Let's Mystical Dispute it. Then they cast a Veil. All right, we'll scoop it up. I think we're going to trim 1 Fatal Push for the 4th Lily. Then we'll submit. We'll go first. And this seems like a pretty cool hand. Let's start off with a Delta. We're going to crack it immediately. Find ourselves a Watery Grave. Then we're going to cast the Visions. We get another Delta. Let's put the Bloodstained Mire on the bottom and the Bolt on top. Then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. They start off with a Snow-Covered Forest into a Pithing Needle, naming Lily. We draw the Bolt. Let's play the Delta. Then we're going to pass. They play a Misty Rainforest. Then let's crack the Delta. Find ourselves a Blood Crypt. We put that in tapped. Then we untap, draw Drown, let's play the Swamp, and then we'll pass. They crack their Misty Rainforest, finding themselves an island. Then they're going to play an Ice Fang. Before they draw, we're going to push it. Their draw trigger resolves. Then they untap and draw for turn. They play a Snow-Covered Plains. We untap, draw Tar Pit, let's play the Steam Vents untapped, and then we're going to pass. They flash out a Spell Queller. Let's target it with a Bolt. The Queller dies. Then they untap and draw. They play a 3-mana Teferi. Let's drown it, and they pass. We draw an Inquisition. Let's cast the Jace. Then we're going to Brainstorm. Let's put the Lily and the Bolt on top. Then we're going to put a Tar Pit into play, and we'll pass. They untap and draw. They play a Misty Rainforest and crack it, find themselves an island. Then they play a Squirrel, and they pass. We draw a Bolt. Let's return the Squirrel. Then we're going to cast an Inquisition. We see a Sword, a Batterskull, a Remand, and a Mana Leak. Let's take the Sword, and then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. They play Pithing Needle number 2, this time naming Jace. We untap, draw the Lily. Let's cast a Serum Visions. We find another Lily. Let's put the field on the bottom and the Bloodstained Mire on the top. Then we're going to pass. They untap and draw. They play a Stoneforge. Find a Sword of Feast and Famine. We cast a Lightning Bolt targeting their Stoneforge. The Stoneforge dies. We get a Bloodstained Mire. Let's play the K command targeting them and the Pithing Needle that stops the Jace. They cast a Remand. Then we're going to crack the Bloodstained Mire. Grab a Watery Grave untapped. Then we're going to try again. They discard the Batterskull. Then we're going to Brainstorm. We find a Dispute, a Drown in the Loch, and a Visions. Let's put both Lilies on top. Then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. They play an Ice Fang Coatl, and it looks like they're still stuck on 4 lands. Nice. We draw a Lily. Let's cast a Serum Visions. We find a Snap and another Lily. Put the Lily on the bottom. Then we're going to Brainstorm. We find a bunch of Drowns. Let's put the Lilies on top. And then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. Play a Noble. Then they swing in with the Ice Fang. Let's attempt to drown it. The Drown resolves. We redraw the Lily. Let's Brainstorm again. Stack the Lilies on top. Then we're going to bolt the Noble. That resolves. Then we're going to pass. So at this point, it feels like we basically have them soft locked. They draw, then they pass. We redraw the Lily. Let's Brainstorm. We put them back on top. Then we find a field. That's pretty good. Let's Inquisition them. They flash out an Ice Fang. Let's cast a Dispute. The Ice Fang fizzles. Then the Inquisition resolves. They've got 2 squirrels, 2 mana leaks, and a sword. Let's take the sword. Then we're going to cast a Kroxa. We stack the triggers. They dump a squirrel, and then we're going to pass. They draw for turn, and it looks like they've had enough. GG's. And there we have it, Grixis strikes again. This build has been an absolute joy to play. I expected the Bolas to be a little bit too cute to actually function within the list as a consistent threat, but I couldn't have been any more wrong. This thing hits like a truck, and it's way less difficult to cast than I initially expected. Grixis Midrange, or Blue Jund, or whatever you want to call it, definitely has some legs, so if you ever get a chance to try it out, I highly recommend it. If you made it to this part of the video, I want to thank you so much. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. I know you probably hear this all the time, but it really does help, and as always, stay safe out there and have a good one.